Welcome. It's Friday again. We're here live at the Adjunct Cafe, downtown Tampa, 500 East Kennedy. If you're not here having an espresso, you're missing out. The place is always packed with people watching here because we are here going to be learning about really cool stuff. We want to thank a few people, some of our sponsors, Attorney Richard McIntyre, McIntyreFirm.com, for your legal, personal, and business needs. We have Podfest Multimedia Expo, podfest.us, and of course the Coffee Bar. Coffee Bar, without it, we would not be here, so we want to thank the Coffee Bar here at downtown Tampa. I'm Anthony Kovic, and you're watching LeaderCast, and today's guest is Dean Akers. He is the Chief Executive Officer for Adjunct CEO. Dean, thank you for thank you for being on today. This is really awesome. I'm here to learn about, tell us, how did you get started in being an adjunct CEO?
Well, Anthony, first, I'd like to thank you for having me on today. What a great venue. I mean, how cool is Tampa?
Oh, it's awesome. We got a beautiful view of downtown, the courthouse, the mayor's office.
We've got a great crowd here today.
Exactly.
We're here to learn and listen, so that's always exciting. It's great you can get people out like this.
It is awesome. I mean, that's the one thing about doing live stuff. We're here live. There's no edits, no cuts unless we really mess up. And we won't, because we're both professionals, and this is what we do.
This is what we do.
So let's get into it. How did you get started? Adjunct CEO, what is that?
Well, Anthony, I got started doing Adjunct CEO having built 2 successful companies, and I retired when I was 40.
40, wow.
And when I retired, my wife at the time came into the room after about 2 months of me hanging around the house at 40 years old.
That's all it took, is 2 months?
Well, she probably was thinking it a lot quicker, but she came in and she goes, "Dean, I married you for better or worse, not for lunch. You got to go find something to do." Well, because I had had 2 successful companies and I knew how to scale companies and help companies really thrive, I had people calling me. And when they would call me, they'd go, "Can you help me?" So I said, "Yeah, I'll go out and be your adjunct CEO." And thus
cool.
It was born.
Nice. Now, let's get into what an adjunct CEO. So you help a company that needs someone that they already have a CEO. But explain that to people who are watching that may need help, whether or not they contact you to be one of their adjunct CEO or find someone else that fits the role of their company. Give us an overview of what is it and what is your purpose as an adjunct CEO?
Well, predominantly, I go in as an adjunct, or one of our team members that go in as an adjunct CEO. We're really being a mirror to the CEO or the C-level or the owner of the company in many cases. Sometimes it's just a president or owner. And we really go in to help them see their blind spots. And what I share with them is we all have blind spots. Everybody. You have them, I do, everybody.
There's no doubt.
What we do is we come in, and most of the time our experiences are not book taught, so we didn't get them at a university.
Exactly.
They're the school of hard knocks. So we try to eliminate some of the road they'll have to travel with our experiences and getting them more engaged. And then the biggest thing is, probably the biggest thing that myself or our team does, is teach people how to work on their business versus in their business.
So when you say you're an adjunct CEO, you also have a team that goes with being the adjunct CEO. So how does that work? So you become the adjunct CEO, or one of your team members acts as one, or how's that work?
Well, if it depends on the client, but we'll bring in an adjunct CEO. Say I'm doing it. Let's just go first person. So I'm the adjunct CEO. I come in and I have a 7-page audit that we do, and it's available, by the way, on our website.
What is the website?
It's www.adjunctceo.com.
Okay.
And it's a profile for CEOs or anybody that's in business. And it's a quick abbreviated test. And what that is, it's like a physical when you go to the doctor. It tells me what they do and don't know, or what they know and don't know. And then I sit down with them and we talk about what they want. What do they really want? Do they want to grow their business? They want to scale their business? And then out of that, we develop a strategy to achieve their goals.
Now, one of the areas I've heard you talk about many times, I've seen you at presentations and stuff over the years, and you do something called self-talk. Can you explain what that means, and how does that actually help someone develop better series of, what does it do? Because I'm not exactly 100%.
Well, I can tell you this: 99.9999% of the people you meet in your life self-talk.
Yeah.
They tell themselves things that are not true, or things they think might happen that never happen. Well, in the business world, what you'll find is in self-talk in the business world, what happens is they'll say the economy's bad. And then you'll find out that they're not even impacted by the economy. So what happens is they start believing things that are just not true. In fact, the story I tell CEOs all the time is John Kennedy Jr. died in an aircraft accident on a crystal clear night. He flew his plane straight into Long Island Sound because he trusted what he was thinking versus the facts, which was his instruments. So when I go in, I help people get out of that business vertigo and focus on facts and get rid of the self-talk.
Yes, I mean, he wasn't confident in understanding his instruments because he wasn't rated for instrument flight.
Well, I'm a pilot, and even when you're not rated as an instrument flight on a VFR night, you still know the primary instruments. So he was certainly competent enough to look at an artificial horizon in his dash, but what happens is you get vertigo. And vertigo takes over rational thinking, and it does in business. I mean, I can't tell you how many people. I've got people in the Tampa Bay market that they have growth in their company now, and I mathematically show them that they're dying in this economy. And they go, how am I dying? I'm growing. No, you're growing at less than the growth rate in the economy. So you're really dying. And when it turns over, you're going to get smacked.
So knowing in your own mind, the growth of your company compared to statistics and based on other variables, that's what they're missing out, and that's where you as an adjunct CEO come in and actually have the proper statistics to measure and reorganize their thinking?
Yes and no. I do that, but I really teach them how to focus on the facts and how they learn to get the facts and how they run their business with the facts versus opinions.
Now, you also run a podcast.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the podcast. Is it an Adjunct CEO or is it something else?
Well, it's Adjunct CEO that is the podcast, and I originally started it after getting to attend the Podfest. And I started it when I found out the reach of podcasting. So it's been going really well. I've had thousands of downloads in 35 plus countries. My original format was to have somewhat what you're doing, have interview format with executives, CEOs that could impart wisdom. I've done, I think, 18 of them.
No, that's pretty good.
Well, the 18 I have yet to have a guest, because my podcast every time has been an example of something to help them from an adjunct CEO stories. And I'm getting so much good feedback off my website and stuff. Oh, wow, I can't believe that. And we've had Think Like a Child. My biggest podcast, with no close second, has been my one on millennials, the greatest generation, as told by a baby boomer.
Really interesting. Now, you decided to get into the podcasting sphere because you went to Podfest?
Well, I had a syndicated radio show called Condo Coaches. And at the same time I did Facebook Live, YouTube, and all that as just a sideline, and a podcast on all the major podcasts, because I was recording it anyway. Well, it went nuts. I had over 1 million Facebook things.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Today, I haven't been on the air in almost a year. I get emails and calls every day. And so that prompted me to know the legitimacy of podcasting. So then when I got out and I went to Podfest and I got to see all the cool stuff there, I said, I'm going to do Adjunct CEO to be a way to help CEOs.
So for those that are wondering what Podfest is, the next opportunity to be at Podfest is in March of 2019. So podfest.us is the place to learn more about it and register now while the prices are at a reasonable rate. The closer they get to Podfest schedule, the numbers start to climb because they use airline pricing. So don't get caught up in the last in the airline pricing war. because it does get. Last time, I think it was like 900 people that were there.
Yeah, it was insane. It was probably one of the best events I've attended in the last 4 or 5 years.
And this is not just wannabes. These are people that are actually producing, managing. If you're in the podcast arena, the camaraderie of connecting and developing guest opportunities are at these locations.
Well, what really happened to me is my original podcast by accident, which was Condo Coach. That was totally accident. I just did that as a sideline. When I got invited to go over to the Podfest group, the biggest thing was I had never formally done my own podcast. The trade show there's insanely cool and good. So I got to meet vendors, and I got to meet people like yourself and people that really know the business. So I had all the tools to be able to launch a podcast with people that really know the business in the trade show and then go to the seminars. So why it's great for podcasters, if you're even thinking about a podcast, you need to register today.
Exactly. So when it comes to, working in the business rather than on your business, can you give us a verse, scenario? Because most people don't understand the difference of being caught up in what you're doing rather than being the founder of your company who implements the vision of the business. Tell us about that.
Well, I'm working with 2 companies right now that have this exact challenge. And actually, I've worked with a lot of companies, but when I meet the executive or the owner or the founder, and this is the first thing to know that they're going to be working in their business versus on their business. When they say, I'm the best. And when they start believing they're the best, then that limits their opportunities to scale themselves, because they say they want to do it, but nobody's quite as good as them, so they can never get out of their own way, as opposed to becoming the mentor for teaching others to be as good or better than them. And when they do that, that's where you scale companies to grow them to 50 or 100 million. And I've grown several companies to over 100 million in sales. One particular company, I grew from 1 location to over 60 plus locations, and in 6 years we sold it for 175 million.
Wow, that's quite.
That works.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it would have never happened. The 2 founders had the company for 6 years with 1 location, and we're always working in the business. When we got everybody working on the business, we could move it across the United States, create value so that somebody could see making it 200 locations, and they paid a real amount of money for it to be able to scale it. And that was all because we worked on the business versus in it.
Well, when you are a founder, one of the things that I have, learned over the years is that every stage of a business requires new knowledge. And if you don't have the people that have that knowledge, you can't get into the next level of that business. So every certain amount of money that your business makes, you cannot get to the next level unless you have the proper expertise to guide you to the next level. You can't learn it because that requires decades of being at that level. So if you're not at that level and you want to be at the next level, you have to hire people like the Adjunct CEO or someone that manages companies at the next level, because there's no way you're going to be able to figure out how to make those connections, how to scale, because that's the problem. Explain what it takes for you to actually convince a CEO, a founder, that you cannot move on to the next level without the proper expertise.
Well, I'm kind of blessed in the fact that I don't ever have to convince them because they already figured it out.
Well, yes.
In other words, I don't get calls from people that go, I know how to do it.
There you go. So for those that are looking to get it done, once you want to get to that decision, when should a company or a franchise or whatever it is that wants to scale, is that the key word? If they want to scale, they need someone who understands the scaling of a company.
Yeah, and the scale would be if they want to create a valuation for their company. And I'll give you an example. There's a lot of restaurants in Tampa. And I was having breakfast this morning at a place called Metro Diners. Metro Diners was a 1 location in Pinellas, I think, for years. And it could never do much of anything, like a lot of one-off locations that provide a good income for its owners. In comes Chris Sullivan and his team, and literally in the next 4 or 5 years, they're opening hundreds of locations across the United States because those guys know how to work on the business versus in it, and they take this concept and grow it. So here's the question you got to ask. Is it a lifestyle business for you? Is it something where you want to have, you do pretty good, you make good money, and you're just happy? Then do not worry about this. If you want to create valuation and possibly make a big hit or have a highly successful company by standards more than you have in a bigger house or whatever, then you want to bring an expert in to help coach you through it and keep you on task. Now, should you do it? I'm working with a lot of young entrepreneurs, you need to start day one. Building your business to scale, day one.
So building to scale, is that the same thing where they have to want to get out of the space? Like the owners, the founders who are managing that space, they actually have to want to be in the managing of multiple locations, not a specific one. Because that's a whole different business. Once you get out of one space, you no longer can manage the one. You are now managing multiples.
Well, and usually what happens, you don't even manage multiple. Because if you think you're going to manage multiple, you might believe in the tooth fairy. Because at the end of the day, I tell young entrepreneurs, and even ones I'm working with right now that have been in business a long time, take a piece of paper and show me exactly if you were in the hospital. If you were in the hospital for 6 months laid up, could this company survive? Could it survive flawlessly, just this location? And guess what the answer usually is?
No.
Right. and so that's where we start.
Now, when it comes to, when you get out of bed every morning, what is the number one thing that really excites you to start your day?
Well, I mean, I get up every day and I try to help somebody every day for free. And you and I've talked about this. I'm so excited about the new generation. I'm a baby boomer, and a lot of my peers talk about the millennials. And I clearly believe they're the hardest working group to ever come, and they're the biggest group. They're bigger than the baby boomers as far as population, and they're going to drive our economy. So I get out of the bed every morning, and I generally try to help somebody every day for free. I work with a lot of kids.
All right, I'm signing up.
No, I mean, if you reach out to me, you're going to find that I help a lot of people at no charge, and I do it a lot for a lot of the nonprofits, especially some of the incubator groups, because they have so many cool companies that are just chomping at the bits to do something, but they don't really have that right somebody to say, so bring that to me in a box so I can see what it looks like.
Well, downstairs, we're here at 500 East Kennedy at the Adjunct Cafe. Downstairs on the 3rd floor is the Wave.
Awesome.
Are you familiar with it?
Absolutely. In fact, one of my folks, Rich Hariska, was I coached him when he had Airhead trampolines.
Okay.
And we were able to do a lot there. And he's one of the head people of the Wave. It's a great incubator group.
Now, tell us about your special 3-cycle sales process. What's that about? What is a special 3-cycle?
Well,
it's like you put it on the machine, wash and rinse, and repeat?
It's 3 circles.
3 circles. Oh, okay.
So everybody always thinks their business is competitive. Everybody goes, oh, my business is competitive. I go, no, it's not. And they go, yes, it is. I said, I can prove to you it's not. And they go, how do you figure? So I have 1 circle, which is their sales. They put that number in. In that number also, the amount of sales they lost that they really didn't get. Then they put the 3rd circle, it's the total sales that could happen in their market, whether it's downtown, state of Florida, United States, whatever the size market is. Then the 2nd circle is the sales they didn't get, but for one reason. And guess what that reason was?
And what's that reason?
They didn't know about it.
Oh, they didn't know about it.
So I'm going to tell you something. Anthony, your listeners and viewers are going to die when I tell them this, because I get aha moments. I actually, in my companies, pay my salespeople commissions to lose sales. Now, you heard that right.
Okay,
commissions to lose a sale.
Okay, how does that operate?
Well, when my kids were younger, when they were real little, we had baseball before they got to the level where they had real coaches, and we encouraged our kids to strike out. And the reason we encouraged them to strike out it took away the fear of the strikeout. And we knew if we just got them up there swinging, guess what was going to happen?
Eventually, they'll have enough confidence to hit the ball.
Oh, they're going to hit it because they're not afraid to strike. So with salesmen or salespeople, women and men, a lot of times they'll go, well, you know, it's hard. I said, just go lose deals. And by the way, we're going to raise the prices. So now when you lose it because of price, I'll believe you, but you get a higher commission because you lost it for a higher price. I've done this a number of times. Every time I get, I'm not talking about 100 grand, 200 grand. One company I went from 32 million to 52 million in 1 year in a recession.
Now,
I know you're sitting there looking just like everybody else.
Well, I kind of get it now. It's starting to sink in a little bit, and so that's where you get the confidence in building your sales team, is by putting them out there and letting them fail enough times, so by the time they have that experience.
No.
Explain it, because I'm messing it up.
They don't get, what happens is 99% of the companies out there, and I've never gone into a company that this hadn't happened, their salespeople are not even losing sales, so they're not even on the deal. So I just want them to know about the sale. I just want them to be in there with the competitor so that they're trying to get the deal. If they get on the sale, they're going to close a certain amount no matter what. It's impossible for them not to, even the worst one.
Now, a lot of the things that you do, it seems like it comes out into threes, you know, like a three-legged stool. Explain how the threes work for you.
Well, the three-legged stool, when I go into entrepreneurs, the three-legged stool business: finance, sales and marketing, and operations. Pretty easy. The three circles: your sales, the market sales you lost, and the gross sale of the market. It's real easy math. The threes of depth in a client, if you're B2B, I want you to know three people, and I want you to have threes or better in relationships. And when all these things happen, you suddenly have a mega successful company. So I manage teams back to the threes.
That is interesting. Now, on your podcast, you talked about millennials earlier. What do you see that the millennials are doing in today's modern, in the business today? There is a kind of, millennials are working a completely different, mindset. There's, they're trying to do things more, ecologically. There's all kinds of stuff. Explain to us what's happening in the millennial side.
Well, I think, number one, there's two factors that I found, and this is not anecdotal, you can research it. Two factors. One is who their hero is. Do you know who their heroes are?
No, tell us who their heroes are.
The heroes to the millennials, and I get a chuckle when everybody agrees when they finally understand this, is their parents. It's very interesting, but it's true. Then the other thing is their primary motivator is, guess what?
What is it?
Purpose. So when you're a leader and you understand that, and you know that their primary motivation is purpose, and purpose doesn't necessarily mean something like save the whales. It could be the purpose of your company. It could be giving them involvement and letting them be stakeholders in it with decisions, and not try to tell them what to do. Empower them by asking questions. What would you do?
Now, one of the life lessons that you wish you had not learned. Can you tell us about when you mean you wish you didn't learn a lesson?
Well, one of this is personal now, is at one point I was a workaholic, and one of the life lessons I wish I had learned is how to balance that work personal, because it's subsequently led to a divorce.
Ah, okay.
So but now I'm very balanced. Now my life is about, I make every day special. And that's all I worry about is today. I don't even worry about the future anymore, and I don't worry about the past ever.
Now, that word life balance seems to be moving around the community a lot, especially in the millennial type market. What does it actually mean? Is there a formula to a life balance? Because, some say it's this, some say it's that. What does it mean to you in that sense?
Well, I think everybody has their own definition of life balance. For me and for my sons and stuff, it's about enjoying the moments. And you can have a great deal of enjoyment with your family. You can have great enjoyment by being a volunteer to organizations. You can have a great deal of enjoyment, quite frankly, in your work. And so what I find with the millennials in particular is with this purpose-driven mindset, their biggest challenge is they work too much. And somebody would say, oh, no, they don't. They don't work as hard as we do. And I go, actually, they work harder because they have something that we didn't have. And it's this device. So I can text my millennial at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night. And if they're awake, or most of the time they'll text me back, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, or whatever. When I was growing up, we were attached by a 3-foot cord to a device next to the refrigerator, and that was it.
If you were next to that device, you didn't get that communication.
No, we didn't even have answer machines back then, so you didn't even know who didn't call you.
Exactly. The old, phone on the wall.
Right.
It wasn't even on, next to the sofa or anything.
No.
It was on the wall
On
that
the
you had
wall.
to get to.
And the big invention back when we were young was they came out with 10-foot cords, and that was like, oh my goodness.
Now, you have 5 sons. What have you given them as how to operate in today's modern, in today's modern climate? What do you tell them, and how are they implementing it?
Well, I'm fortunate that my former wife was just an awesome mom. We parented well together and created good values. And our good values that have come out of my kids is they are very considerate of others. And my kids could be arrogant and everything else. One of the coolest things that's come out of it is how they interact with all their peers and people who are older. I constantly get told by people, those young men are gentlemen. And they're nice. And think about the word nice. How many people today could just say, look, let's just be nice? Social media. Why rant on social media? Why not be nice? Find out what's right with your life.
Well, people don't understand on social media. It's an item called like makes it very difficult to be not nice, because when people stop hitting the like button, you start disappearing from their news feed. That's the problem with social media. You don't get what you don't want, because if you don't follow that group of people or that person or that organization, if you stop liking, you stop seeing their content. So the more crap you put out, the less likely it is getting seen by the people that you want it seeing.
Right.
So when it comes to, like organizations today and, employment and stuff, what is happening when companies seem to not be able to find good employees? Is it because they're trying, I look at this sector. I'm always looking at, and I find it very comical, where on their employment, ad, they have everything in the kitchen sink that they're looking for that person to do. No one has all those qualifications. They don't know how, this software, that software, this software, and 20 different versions of software that don't make sense that they would be together. So are employers overplaying what they're looking for an employee?
Well, I found people were hired for skills, but they're always fired for attitude or how they fit in. So I will tell you, having hired, thousands of employees. I've had companies that had 1,000 employees. I personally, in my groups, have never looked at a resume. I always am recruiting every day. And so what happens is when they put this out here, I'll tell you a funny thing.
Go ahead.
So I was with a group of CEOs 1 week ago, a big group of CEOs, and we were all talking, and everybody goes, we can't find good people. Then I got blessed to be offered an opportunity to go down and sit in to transitioning military people that were going to transition into the workforce, and they couldn't find jobs. And I'm sitting there, I went back and did an analysis. Right now, today, there's about 4.5 million jobs a month that churn. Do you know what that means?
Yes, rotating in and out. People are coming in.
So there's jobs everywhere. There's jobs everywhere. And there's people looking all the time. And so what I tell employers is be attractive to employees, always be recruiting, and recruit like, I have one company right now, they said they couldn't find good people, and it's a professional company. We have a university here that graduates people every year out of there, and I ask them, do you know the dean of that college? And they go, no. I go, he would be my best friend, because I have both the University of Tampa and some other universities. I know the business schools. And when I want somebody, I call one of those professors up and I go, hey, do you have anybody that could be a rock star coming out in the next 2 terms? And they'll go, I got 3 of them. And I said, do you think they'd want to have breakfast or lunch? They'd love to. Do you think that anybody gets a shot at them?
So what you're saying is that employers are not facilitating, you know, like a positive feel for employees to want to be working for them.
Totally. And I'll tell you another tip that I've helped a number of my companies through Adjunct CEO. Every company I've ever had, and I've had a tire company which had a lot of labor, a construction company, we had a lot of labor there. One of the things I've done and always do is I give every single employee a business card.
A business card. So even the maintenance crew has a business card?
Every single employee gets a box of 500 business cards.
So explain to the audience, what does that mean and why are you doing this?
Well, first off, when I give, like,
are these? No.
These are for excuses. So everybody always has.
Let's take that. Because this is important.
Yeah.
Why you give employees that have no real connection to a sales force or communications purposes, why are you giving them business cards?
Okay, I'm going to use my construction company.
Go ahead.
So we had laborers, guys that worked in ditches, been in the business 20 years. They did a good job, but they made X dollars. They would work for every different company, you know, whatever. They were our associates. When I gave them a box of business cards, 500 business cards, first off, I had several of them, grown adults, cry because nobody had ever cared that much about them. Secondarily, guess what I figured out when I was a very young man? All those people know all the other ditch diggers. So when I needed somebody, they're always handing their card out at a bar or something. They go, oh, I work for this great company, look. And so my lobbies were always filled, even when unemployment was low last time, with the best quality people, because my people are recruiting for me subtly 24/7, 365. And they go, I work for the best company. Well, you don't think that that they're not going to bring me anybody that they wouldn't stand behind.
So basically, you've developed a public relations network with your employees, rather than hiring a public relations crew at the cost of a measly, $25, $30 per pack of business cards.
Try $10.
$10. So $10 equaled times, let's say, 50, 60 employees.
Well, I had hundreds.
Yeah, but you didn't buy them every day, because once you got them...
Oh, yeah. Every time I hired somebody, yeah.
So once you got the first group with business card, after a while, it only, maybe once every so often, new people come in, and you get new business cards.
Yeah. But think about this. You'll see companies spend money. $10 for an employee, that's nothing. It's nothing. And the other side of it is they give them out. They give them out. And they gave them to my customers. And I also empowered my customers I empowered my employees to make decisions with my customers, all the way down to the guy in the ditch, or the guy that was fixing a tire on the side of the road with our tire company. So the feeling of empowerment and having that sense of pride that nobody had ever given them, the customers feel that.
Now, having a sense of pride for employees, I mean, today, more companies are doing these kind of things, adding coffee bars at their locations, adding all these little things that get employees out of their fatigue level. Because after a while, sitting at a desk or doing the repeat business gets, fatigue settles in. Is this one of the reasons why it creates excitement when they have something, kind of an ownership?
Well, it does. It creates excitement, the business cards. But the coffee bars and all that, that's trendy, and people like them. It's kind of like an amenity. But at the end of the day, people want real authenticity and genuine inclusion. Not, oh, you're included You know, I went helped a company, and they said we're all inclusive, we're open book, and the C-suite had a private door with one of those magnet cards you had to go to get in, but they would swear on the Bible and look at me dead in the eye and say, we're inclusive, and we are open door policy. If you had
the card.
The card.
So maybe the definition of all inclusive meant something else to them.
No, what it means is it's a blind spot.
Ah, yes.
And I can tell you, when I go in, I actually have something, if any of your listeners and readers or viewers want it, I do a 10-question survey, climate questionnaire, and I developed it 35 years ago for myself.
A climate questionnaire. Go ahead.
It's anonymous, and I don't even do it electronically, so there's no IP. I still use stamps, and it's mailed to a blind box. And it's 10 dimensions, like communication, how you feel, and they do rate 1 to 10s. 100% of the time when I do them with companies, it's never what the executive thought the issue was in the company, and it was never money. Money is generally in the bottom 3%. I mean, the bottom 30%.
Yeah, importance is a big factor.
A feeling of involvement.
Yes.
Yeah.
They want to be involved. They want to believe that they are actually contributing rather than just being the person turning, basically the nut or the ratchet or moving paper from one place to another. There is no value in self-esteem just saying, hey, I just move paper, that's my position. They want to feel like they're actually really contributing in a positive way.
And they are. And that goes back to that primary millennial motivation of purpose. They want to feel purpose. So if they're just putting a nut on something and you show them that nut, if it's not put on there, the jet crashes. There's a pretty big purpose there.
Exactly. Now, you have a few props here that you brought in. Tell us a little bit about some of the props.
Well, this is fun. I've been using these. I do it electronically. But this is a simple kitchen timer. So I'll have people, well, first let's go here.
Go ahead.
This is my favorite thing. This is 35, 40 years I've been doing this. This is a card shoot right here.
Card shoot.
Card shoot.
Yeah, card shoot where, kind of like a poker card shoot.
So in all of our meetings, and this sits on my desk, it's in our conference call room, we have these, and it's an excuse box. And what we do is I buy blank decks of cards. These are blanks. And then everybody writes their 5 favorite excuses on it in the organization, and we fill this box full of excuses. So when you come to me, Anthony, and you start going, well, it was raining or whatever your excuse is, anybody in the room, they can call it on me, go, call the box. Reach over, and I pull the next excuse out, because it's about as good as one you're going to give me, and I go, my car was stolen. That's just as good of an excuse as you were going to give me, so think of a solution. What this does, this really gets your team consciously eliminating excuses. It's a joke, but it's a fun ploy that allows people to understand this doesn't get you anywhere, and neither did the one you were going to give me.
Very nice. And what else is the other? There's another item here. What's this one?
This one came about years ago when I started out. I had this big group of professionals, and they were telling me about all the reasons, all the problems they were having. And I said, give me $5 and I'll solve all your problems. So they gave me a $5 bill, and I had them all sign it, big accounting firm. And so the next week I came back and I gave them the $5 solution, which, by the way, anybody that emails me at dean@adjunctceo.com, I'll send them one. I'll put one in the mail to them. So I gave them the $5 solution, and they go, wow, that's cool, Dean. What is it? I said, it's going to solve 100%, Anthony, of all your problems.
Oh, I love that.
And you'll never have a problem.
So this is, now all my problems are now solved. There we go.
So all you do? And they go, really? I said, yeah, it's right on the inside.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. I just solved all the problems.
You can solve all your problems. When you look in the mirror, when you quit blaming others, when you quit blaming all this external stuff you self-talk yourself on, when you take ownership, 99.99% of your problems will be gone.
So the next one is the kitchen timer. For those that have these, you could use your phone with the timer, but explain to us the timer.
So I use my phone, just FYI now.
Yes.
But years and years ago, people would always tell me, Dean, I'm busy. And I go, I tell you what, I'm going to prove to you something. And I said it for 10 minutes. And I set it down, and to show the example, I stare at them, and we sit there for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes is 60 hours a year. If you said, I'll give you 60 hours to build this, or I'll give you 60 hours to fix this, how many people would go, well, it's going to take more than that? They go, 60 hours, I could easily do it. Well, guess what? You got it.
10 minutes a day?
10 minutes a day. And when it rings, and I've been using this personally for years when I get distracted, because we're all going to get distracted. When it rings, put it down, and then go do whatever you want. And what will happen is you'll condition yourself, and in 10 minutes a day, you'll be successful. By the way, I hear people always want to go to the gym and stuff. If you set this timer and do just sit-ups, push-ups, deep bends and stuff for 10 minutes, you're going to be ripped.
It's developing a habit is what you're doing.
Totally.
Now, you're also an author. Tell us a little bit about what you've written and why.
Well, my first book was a book called 52 Wows, and I wrote that as a relationship guide for men, and it's on Amazon. And I wrote that after my event I shared with you with my former wife. And it was a guide for men, and it's really a guide in life of how if you create a wow in somebody's life once a week, and the definition of a wow is something you do for somebody else with no agenda. So you don't go, hey, you didn't send me a thank you. You give it to them or do it for them. So in the quiet of a moment, they reflect back on what you did, whatever it was, and they go, wow. So that's the book. And then the book that's getting ready to come out right now is Self-Talk, Think Like a Child. And I'm so excited about this book. It's almost done.
Why? Tell us, I know you're excited, but why should we be excited to wait for it?
Listen, when this book comes out, it's going to be the culmination of what I've been teaching for years. And it's a book that will wake people up to eliminate their own self-talk. And the reason it's called Self-Talk, Think Like a Child when they're born, have no filters. And a child will ask you lots of things. They'll learn some things by burning their hands, but they don't have filters. The older we get, we develop all these filters, and we start believing stuff that's just not true.
You know, self-talk, it's not the same thing as muttering. You know, people mutter to themselves, or, you know, how should we say, sit quietly and develop into their thoughts. That's not the same thing as talking the wrong words.
Right. I'll give you self-talk. I'll have somebody say, in fact, this is one of the ways I really help companies. They'll go in and they'll go, wow, it's competitive out there. I mean, I can't tell you how many companies go, it's really competitive. And I go, really? And then I do the 3 circles. When I get done with the 3 circles, they find that their biggest problem isn't competition. Their biggest problem is they don't even know about the stuff. So it's not competitive at all.
And when do you think the book will be coming out?
I'm working with my editors and stuff now. I hope to have it out hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks and have it launched. I'm going to do a little book tour.
Now, what is the inspiration behind it? Is that people are really self-talking themselves out of business?
Oh, people do it. People do it personally. People will sit there and they go, I mean, young people I coach, they'll go, they're not going to like me. I go, did they tell you that? And they go, well, no, but I just know they're not going to like me. Well, that's self-talk. You don't know that. They didn't come up to you and go, Anthony, I don't like you.
Hey, you told me that last week.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you see it in all evolutions of life. And so what inspires me is when I see somebody get it, when that light bulb moment happens, whether it's a business. And I was sharing with you, I mentor a lot of college or younger folks, and when they get that gotcha moment and that light goes off about the self-talk, I just melt, because now they create a whole new sense of ownership for their destination.
So self-talk is just like it is what they're projecting onto other people. So they're talking to themselves about what others may be thinking, but from only their point of view.
That's an example.
But it's not really anyone actually thinking what they're thinking. So how do you get out of that? Tell us, how do you get out of the self-talking business?
Well, the way I do it with my teams, the easiest way is I think it was Representative Moynihan or Senator Moynihan back in the 60s.
Senator Moynihan, yes.
Yeah, he had a famous saying, you're entitled to your own opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. So when people are talking to me, I always say, show me the facts that got you here. And then they start stuttering. I've yet to find somebody to show me the facts to support their self-talk. Because their self-talk is the generalities. The economy's bad. Or this. One of my companies, we said the economy was bad. It was back in '08 or whatever, and they said the economy was bad. Our customer was an average 32-year-old female, okay? Everybody's freaking out about this unemployment in the teens and all that. At that very moment, the highest unemployment ever got for our customer was 4.2%, which is statistically 100% employment. So we never had it. If I had allowed our people across the country to believe that unemployment was an issue for us, we would have started believing that we wouldn't be able to be in business. Instead, we knew we had plenty of customers that were working.
So your customer base had full employment, even though the unemployment at that time may have been, statistically high or low, wherever it was. It technically didn't matter because the group of people that were part of your clients were in full employment.
Totally. And then the other stat that was a fact, because I'm a fact freak, I took and had a demographer do all of our customers, and I found out the household income. Everybody thought that it was rich people that came and did business with us. The average household income was $37,000. So not only is our segment fully employed, this decision is not a decision coming from a rich household.
Now, when it comes to the biggest unique trait that you have that makes you different from other adjunct CEOs or people that do coaching, give us an overview of how to best explain to people why you have a unique trait.
Well, I think two things that are unique about me, and I don't know whether it's a gene deficiency or whatever. One is I absolutely still think like a child. I always question everything.
So you maintain your imagination capabilities.
I'm totally always imagining, creating and asking and questioning and why, and I do it. I do it. The other thing that I have that brings a lot of stuff is I'm not a schooled person. I'm an experienced person. So in all my career, I've had most of the experiences that you don't ever want to have.
Now, when it comes to communications, is that part of one of the experiences people are not having? Why do you think there is a lack of communications out there?
Well, when I work with companies, and I'll use this as a recorder, I'll sit it down and we'll record a conversation. And we'll, especially an employee dialogue, and the boss is preaching at the employee. What I teach them is to ask open-ended questions and to shut up. And when they shut up for 10 seconds, what happens is the truth comes out, or whatever they're really wanting to find out. And from a communication style, when people feel listened to, they feel included, and you get a lot better input.
So pretty much we're at the end of the program. What is the next chapter of your life? What are you trying to implement? I mean, you're retired. You've been retired for a very long time. You're doing Adjunct CEO. You got podcasts. You got books. What is it that you're up to next?
Well, I'm going to grow out Adjunct CEO. I used to be I spoke nationally back when I was 40, and I sold my tire companies. And I'm going back out on the speaker
very
series.
Good, yes.
I just became a National Public Speakers Association. There's 1,200 of us in the country or the world. Because of my experiences and stuff, was admitted in, which I was really proud of. And so I'm going to become a speaker. But my biggest thing is mentoring millennial groups and millennial companies to enjoy their successes and helping baby boomer companies transition. And I want to say one other thing real quick. One thing I never thought I'd be doing today, but I do unbelievably great amount of, is I'm mentoring transitional companies where the executive or owner is a guy my age or in his late 50s. He has children, and now because of my experiences with this group and that group, I'm helping the transitions. And that was never in any business model I had. And that's probably my biggest thing I'm doing.
Is there anything that we did not cover that you want to definitely get across?
You know, Anthony, I really appreciate you letting me come out today. I appreciate everybody coming out today to listen to me in the crowd here. And I want people to understand that they control their own destiny. And you know, I'm not a guy that's any different than any of us. And as they learn to take those blind spots out of their life and learn to base their life on facts, not opinions, and really take ownership of their destiny, they're going to have a pretty good ride.
Is there a phone number, a website that you want people to connect with you, or your email? Well,
my email is dean@adjunctceo.com. My website is www.adjunctceo.com. And in about a week or two, my Adjunct CEO site will be pointed to my deanakers.com.
Ah, yes.
And I just am launching that brand. I have a huge launch coming out for that in about 2 or 3 weeks. And, you know, anybody has a question, I help tons of people for free. One of my goals every day is to help at least one person for free. So don't feel embarrassed to email me or call me. And I would love to see you be successful.
Well, guys, I'm Anthony Kovic here at the Attic Cafe, downtown Tampa, 500 East Kennedy, with Dean Akers. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Adjunct CEO, adjunctceo.com. Dean, thank you very much for being a guest today.
Anthony, thanks for having me coming on and share some of my desk.
It is awesome. I've learned quite a bit just from this conversation alone. So we'll see you next Friday at the Attic Cafe, downtown Tampa.
The Excuse Box.
Excuse Box. For $5, you can. Where can you order this for $5?
You can get it for free if you email me. I'll mail you one. That's how much I want to have people to.
Excellent. So you get a $5 prop, and it'll be for free. It'll help you out because, if nothing else, you could learn a little bit about yourself by looking in the mirror. See you next Friday.
Thank you.